Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we are going to talk a little bit more about that Space Wolves vs. Orcs box, because it's just getting more and more complicated. There is now an article on the Warhammer community site. It's part 2 of the Space Wolves lore. We've seen part 1, it's just a recap of all the stuff they've been going through and all that stuff. This one, however, is more specific to the current matter at hand. You know, the rising of the Orcs, the Beast, the Black Wolf fighting said Beast, all of this. It's just a nice little recap, you know, Rune Priest having visions, and word being sent to Ragnar Blackmane, essentially saying, hey, apparently it's your destiny to fight Ghazghkull, get on with it. At which point, he does. And there is a little paragraph in here that could actually indicate that the stuff that we saw earlier today, / yesterday, about the Space Wolves vs. Orcs box, could be true. However, it could also scupper that idea. It's not helpful, but it is kind of interesting, and I thought I would just throw it out there in case you hadn't seen it, so you can draw your own conclusions. Not that it really matters, we've only got to wait like 4 days to find out what the deal is, hopefully, but still. So, Ragnar has been summoned, he's gone off to find Ghazghkull, to flush him out, and to have a big, a bit of a scrap with the lad, as you do. And we're led to this bit, so I'll of course link it so you can read the whole thing, but we get to one fight too many. The last the Space Wolves heard of Ragnar's strike force was a garbled astropathic transmission from the Wolf Lord claiming that it had tracked the beast to its lair on the hive world of Krongar. What little could be understood from the message was that Ragnar's great company was divided between a number of different war zones, so he didn't have the numbers with him to launch a full-scale planetary attack. Instead, he planned to lead a covert mission that would infiltrate the Orcs' most foremost stronghold and force a direct confrontation with Ghazghkull, enabling Ragnar to kill the beast in person. It was a bold plan, but one that came at tremendous risk to the Wolf Lord and his warriors. And at the end there, we've got, as of yet, no word has reached the Space Wolves of the mission's outcome. I'm going to guess it didn't go well, personally. Fearing the worst, the Blackmanes of Strike Force Ice Fang, god damn it, have raced towards the last known coordinates of their yard in a desperate bid to discover his fate. Had Ragnar Blackmane fallen in battle? Was the young king dead? Highly unlikely. So, that's the paragraph, though. That is the paragraph. And this is where it gets complicated and confusing, and really could mean literally anything in the context of that box. So, instead, Ragnar planned to lead a covert mission that would infiltrate the Orcs' foremost stronghold and force a direct confrontation with Ghazghkull, enabling Ragnar to kill the beast in person. Now, in that context, with that paragraph, that sounds very, very much like a Ragnar leading, for instance, a squad of infiltrators against Ghazghkull and, say, a personal guard of Meganobs, which is what the content of the box is supposed to be. That's what's claimed anyway. That's what that message on Facebook said, and that's what the guy said is not a rumour, is what's going to happen. That lines up with that. Undeniably, it does. Ragnar launching a covert operation. I mean, it literally says that would infiltrate. You'd use infiltrators for that, presumably, anyway. So on the one hand, that could be seen as like tacit acknowledgement that we're going to see at least that sort of setup. I mean, that's pretty similar. That's pretty similar. However, the timeline's weird, isn't it? If Ragnar is leading that strike, that would imply that Ragnar is not yet Primaris, which would make that box weird, because in that box, apparently, Ragnar is Primaris. I mean, Valrak had the stats sent to him, and to be honest, it's more likely than not that Games Workshop is going to release a Primaris version of the character. I mean, why wouldn't they? They do Primaris versions of all. I mean, it's slowly making its way through the ranks, isn't it? We've got Calgar, we've got Mephiston, we've got bloody Tigerius. Like it's kind of likely. Let's be totally honest. But that leads to two possibilities, really. Well, no, multiple possibilities, but if he's leading the strike force without being Primaris, the box is not going to contain a Primaris Ragnar leading a bunch of infiltrators, because that wouldn't make any sense, because that would be conflicting with the actual story that they've already given us. If he is already Primaris, that means that he has essentially crossed the Rubicon off-screen. The point where bloody... I nearly said Lorgar. Grimnar. The point where Grimnar is like, oh, we need to find Blackmane. That would be, okay, well, was Ragnar getting Primaris whilst they didn't know where he was? Was he getting the treatment and then he comes back all beefed up armoured, bit stronger, bit tougher, and went in that version of himself? In which case, I would hope that we would at least get some sort of book to explain why he was Primaris in the first place. So, depending on whether he is or he isn't, or even whether that model is real, it could or could not confirm that that box exists. It's not just that. There's also the fact that it says that, fearing the worst, the Blackmanes of Strike Force Icefang, that is the worst name. Strike Force Icefang is really hard to say. They're racing towards the last known coordinates. So, the mission of Ragnar to defeat Ghazghkull in a infiltrate covert mission may well just be the setup for the conflict, and what we actually get is something a little bit different. In which case, is the box correct, but the contents are wrong? Because instead of getting infiltrators, we're getting a bunch of other guys? Or perhaps it's a double dip of infiltration. Perhaps, Strike Force Icefang could well be a covert section of that great company. So it could well be that Ragnar goes in, he gets trashed, he is rescued by Strike Force Icefang, he then crosses the threshold to become Primaris, and then attempts a second covert operation to try and finish Ghazghkull off. Say maybe he wounds him the first time, he gets ascended to Primaris, he goes back with another group of infiltrators from Icefang, and then they try and get it. What could it mean? We don't know. We've got no fucking idea. And it's really super interesting to me, this, because this is one of the most conflicting things I think I've ever come across when it comes to just conflicting rumours. Just the idea of people, being dead certain that literally multiple different facets of this box have been suggested, right down to it just being a totally different faction. There's also the fact that some of it actually makes a lot of sense. This does confirm the kind of contents that you might expect from a box showing that fight. Infiltrators and Ragnar versus Ghazghkull and Magnov makes absolute sense in the context of that paragraph. But does that line up with the actual timeline of it at all? It depends entirely on when Ragnar gets Primaris. Is he going to do two covert operations that are exactly the same, one after the other, but with a bit of a gap in between whilst he recovers? Does that seem likely? Is that something sensible? Would they do that? Would that be classed as a bit boring? Is he just going to show up out of nowhere? They don't know where he is. Like Grimnar, like himself, it's like, we need to find Ragnar Blackmane. Was he off getting the treatment and no one knew? Because that seems kind of unlikely, but it's possible. We've had a couple of characters kind of ascend off-screen, so to speak. So, just a bit more information for you there. Go wild. Go absolutely nuts. Who fucking knows? Who's got any idea? If it gets to the 9th and they're just like, here's Primaris Ragnar, here's Ghazghkull, off we go, and that's all the information we get, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do, eh? It's so bizarre, this one. It's so weird. There's just so much conflicting information, so much disagreement on what everything means. Best guesses in the comments down below. You know the drill. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that shit. There's the affiliate link as well. You know how that works by now. You can buy stuff like it, something saying that way. You save a bunch of money, supports the channel. Some of it goes to charity. Do it if you like. Let me know what you think of all of that in the comments, and I'll see you for the next one.